Welcome to The Flock at FBC. This podcast is designed to highlight the incredible members and ministries of First Baptist Harrisburg. Our goal is to grow our church relationally and make known the many ways you can serve and get connected here at FBC. Whether you're a longtime member or just getting to know us, we're so glad you're here. Welcome back to another episode of The Flock. Today we are joined by Matt Businaro. Matt, how's it going today?
Great. How are you guys?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain.
No complaints here. Well, let's get right into it, man.
Okay.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I am the CFO for Farmer State Bank here in town. Been there for 7 years. Just celebrated my 7th anniversary May 1st. Prior to that, I worked at Kemper CPA Group for 18 years. Was a partner there for about 11 years, and did a lot of tax returns, a lot of financial statement audits, a lot of accounting work. So nice to kind of have a little bit of a different pace and then be in a different environment, and blessed to work at. I've been blessed to work at two wonderful companies. Kemper's top notch, and Farmer State Bank, of course, is wonderful as well. Frank's family are wonderful to work for, and just a great collection of employees. It's more like family than it is coworkers, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is cool. How old were you when you decided you wanted to go into like this profession?
So I was in probably my first semester of college. So my intention in high school was that I was going to be a doctor. For whatever reason, decided I was going to specialize in podiatry. But I burned myself out on taking so many science classes in high school. By the time I graduated, I was like, man, I don't know if I can sit through another like biology lab or whatever. And so I went ahead and I didn't change my major during my first semester, but kind of had that in the back of my mind in between my first semester and second semester of my freshman year. I've got an uncle who is a retired internal auditor, worked for Continental Airlines at the time. Now they're part of United. He said, hey, why don't you come down over Christmas break and just like job shadow me for a few days, see if it's something you might be interested in. So I did, and seemed interesting to me. I've always enjoyed math, and I like how in accounting, everything has to be in balance, and so I like that order that goes along with accounting, and so I made the shift the second semester of my freshman year and kind of never looked back.
Wow. Well, I guess we'll never know what Dr. Matt Businaro would have.
I don't like blood, so it wouldn't have been pretty. It was inevitable that that was going to happen. So
yeah,
you're good.
I was going to segue into like. Do you remember, so in high school it was doctor. Do you remember like as a kid or in middle school? Because I'm specifically thinking about Justin. Like you have
right.
a younger son, and I'm not sure if he has a career path in mind at this point. But like, did you have something else in mind growing up?
Yeah, so as far as Justin, I mean, right now it's totally politics. I think that's his interest and passion in life, for better or worse. So I think that's the direction that he wants to go right now. Of course, obviously that can change a dozen times between now and next week. But honestly, I don't. Baseball player, which is hilarious because I was horrible. But I guess if you needed somebody that had no contact ability and was average speed at best, then maybe I could have succeeded. But that was like maybe like a pipe dream or whatever. But no, not really anything career wise before that.
So growing up, you said you kind of talked about like what you wanted to do, but like where'd you go to church at when you were growing up? Have you guys always went to First Baptist?
So I have. Even though I'm 46, I've been there a long time. In fact, my family, I like to say my family's been here, golly, probably 80 years or more. I like to say my dad was born in this church, which is technically true. When the building, the educational building, was a hospital, that's where he was born. So he was actually born in this church, even though it wasn't part of this church at the time. Probably shortly after I was born, I was in the nursery and just kind of came up through the church here, and could give you a lot of good church history that would bore you to death.
Oh man, I would be willing to hear some if you have any like church history highlights. I heard there was a pool in the basement.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
that was before my time. My understanding, it's probably it would have been where the youth area is now. I seem to remember that used to be. That was the fellowship hall. Even before, so I can remember a couple iterations of that being the fellowship hall, and there was like a kids or maybe nursery Sunday school class that was off of that was like built up. So in my mind, and I could be completely wrong about this, I imagine that the pool might have been underneath that, and then when they remodeled it to make it the size that it is now, that maybe got filled in. I mean, I was 6 or 7 years old, so I could be completely out in left field on that. But in my mind, that's where I like to imagine that it was. So, yeah.
What's like the biggest difference? Like, it can be structurally, it can be anything. Like from when you were like you remember, like, oh, we always did this when I was a kid, or.
Oh man, that's a good question. This room is an interesting case study. The parlor, like I can remember when I was younger, this was like the fancy room, and like I feel like if my grandparents were still with us, that they would be like aghast that it was, we took down the beautiful paneling that was in here before and made this kind of informal, comfortable space, because it should be the fancy room where the bride gets ready before the wedding, and where you have your 50th wedding anniversary family pictures and stuff like that. But I mean, the adding the educational building, which happened when I was in high school, was a really, really good move. We really, really needed the space. At the time, our pastor was Mike Davis, who was here a long, long time, and he always had a theory about Sunday school class size and how you should have no more than like 8 in a class, because bigger than that, people really didn't get to know each other very well. You can debate the validity of that. I'm in a class now that's got quite a bit more than that. I feel like we all know each other really well, but that was kind of his theory. And so we really were bursting at the seams and needed classroom space. And so that was, at one point in time, we had a class meeting in the women's bathroom, like what is now the women's bathroom here. So we were desperate for space. So that was a really, really huge needed change. And of course, the fellowship hall over there is much bigger than where the youth are now. And so that was a big blessing as well.
So you've been going here for 46 years.
Yeah.
When did you come to know the Lord during that time? Was it kind of later in life, or was it from like a young age?
Sure. So 8 years old. Of course, being raised in the church, I heard the gospel very, very early on and often, and I still hear the gospel often, which is awesome, because that's our mission, right? So at 8 years of age, I felt the Lord calling me that I needed to accept Him as my Lord and Savior, and so I did. I didn't, like you'll hear everybody else say, I didn't probably know immediately all of what that meant, and we talk about the trajectory of sanctification, right? And at 8 years old, I'm not sure I even knew what that word really truly meant. I just felt convicted that I was a sinner, and that my only hope for salvation was a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so I made that decision and was baptized here and became a member, and have grown. Hopefully, since then, 46 years of age, I surely I feel like I'm a much more mature Christian than I was at 8, and certainly have grown in knowledge and understanding of the Lord in biblical study, since then. But pretty early in life.
And it's an amazing testament to like that you've been born here and like raised here and are still here. Because that doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
When people grow up, they find a new church or find a different church somewhere else with their spouse, or move. So I think it's really cool that you've been here.
Yeah, I mean, we visited other churches usually when we're on vacation, something like that, or just a special occasion where a friend, a child of a friend is being baptized, something like that. And this is home, and it doesn't matter who's been the pastor. I feel like our church has always done a really good job. The Lord has led us to find really, really good men with really good sound gospel doctrine to be our leaders. And so I've always felt like this is where the Lord wants me to be plugged in, and I've never felt the need to go anywhere else, because this is home.
Yeah, that's awesome. before we talk about your office as a deacon here,
Yeah.
which is kind of why we're interviewing you today as our series of Meet the Deacons. But I wanted to talk about your role and your job and how that helps you help the church as our treasurer, right?
Sure.
Is that the official title?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm in the weeds with numbers all the time, in being the CFO at the bank and kind of overseeing on a high level the bank's finances, and so being able to have that knowledge and background is super helpful in, you know, answering questions, making sure that everything is accounted for properly, and just, kind of taking a high altitude flyover view of, are we spending our money the right way? Are our reserves adequate where they need to be? Are we saving too much, not enough? Kind of doing that delicate dance. And so, that gifting that the Lord's given me to have an understanding of numbers is certainly helpful in this role. And I've been, my predecessor, Mike Williams, was also very fantastic at the job, and I was able to learn a lot from observing him from afar and more closely. The last years we kind of were co-treasured before his retirement. So.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about like transitioning from school age to kind of college.
Okay.
You kind of talked about you went to SIU.
Oh yeah,
is that right?
I did. SIU Carbondale. I drove back and forth for 3.5 years. I graduated in December of '99, so a December grad. And it's funny. So my dad. This is not related to college, but my dad worked for IDOT when I was growing up, and so the nice 2-lane highway that we have between here and Carbondale, that project started when I was in 3rd grade, and it was completed my last semester in college.
Really?
So finally, my last semester of college, I got to drive 4-lane highway all the way from Harrisburg to Carbondale. Before that, it was kind of chopped up in bits and pieces. Part of it was 2-lane, part of it was 4-lane, but pretty neat to have a view of that while I was driving back and forth to Carbondale every day. So yeah, went to SIU Carbondale. They actually have a wonderful accounting program and business school over there, and so I felt like I got a really good quality education close to home.
So did you meet Tiffany before or after, or did she come here whenever she was growing up? Like,
so that's an interesting story. So she and I met while we were in college. But we didn't attend college together. So because I lived in Harrisburg and commuted to Carbondale, I still worked at McDonald's, which is where I started working when I was 16. One of those, my dad comes in and says, "Hey, you're 16 now. Here's an application for McDonald's. Fill it out, and you can start on Monday." Okay. Sounds good. But it was a wonderful blessing in that Tiffany and I met working there. So I noticed her. I thought she's really cute. She's somebody I'd like to get to know a little bit better. I don't know if she even was aware that I was even there for the first couple months that we worked together, but got to become really, really good friends, and eventually started dating. So.
That's awesome. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your other office here at the church of being a deacon. What does being a deacon mean?
Yeah. So the other gentlemen that have spoken previous to me, kind of they hit the nail on the head. I mean, it is truly about serving the church in whatever ways are needed. I really like what Ricky said last week about taking pressure off the pastoral staff, because that is such a heavy load in just the spiritual burden for the church, but in preparing for sermons and my gosh, hundreds of people that you oversee. We can take that load off by having a closer relationship with the families that we serve, but not only serving in that capacity, wherever you're gifted to serve. So in addition to being a deacon and serving that way, I help with the offering, help ushering, help in childcare on Sunday nights. In the past, I've taught both adult and youth Sunday school classes, and so. And being able to, even with in the summertime, the preaching lab, that's a wonderful way to serve as well. So just like Dylan likes to say, and it's so appropriate, having your yes on the table. Don't default to no. We tend to, especially when we get stressed in our lives, default to no anytime anybody asks you to do something. Don't have that be your default position. Have yes be your default position.
Yeah, for sure. How many years have you served here as a deacon?
That's kind of an interesting question too. So I was ordained as a deacon in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And I can't remember if it was before or after Ava was born, but Tiffany and I were not married a real long time. And if Ava was with us, she would have been very, very young. And I served in that capacity for a few years until I became a partner at Kemper, and the workload just kind of ramped up at that point in time, and I became very, very, unfortunately, very inactive, and got to the point where I resigned as deacon because I just was not giving it the attention that the office deserves, and in shifting away from working at Kemper and going to work at the bank, the hours are different, and so it's I have a lot more freedom and time available to be able to devote the time that it properly deserves. And so probably about the time that Dr. Winkleman came in as a deacon here, came as well. There were a few ordained guys that were some of them were newer church members here, but had been ordained previously at other Southern Baptist churches. And there was definitely a need as some of our deacon group had gotten older and kind of had gone to an emeritus status. We were asked if we would be interested in stepping in and serving, and the time was right, and so yeah, jump back in and thrilled to be part of it.
That's a hard thing to do. Like, that's a hard line to feel like. I'm sure it was hard for you, kind of like stepping back, but like still wanting to serve. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like your heart was still in it. It just the time didn't really line up. Correct. And that was obviously like the Lord's work at hand, or the Lord's hand at work. Right. But then He's brought you back into this other way of serving down the road. So that's really awesome to see. You got anything else?
Man, I want to go ahead and hit our spotlight question of the week. Is there a member or a group here at First Baptist Church, or just somebody that you think is doing a really good job that you want to highlight?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not an extensive list. We don't want to leave anybody out because we have a lot of good people here doing a lot of good things. But who would that highlight for you?
Absolutely. And thinking about this, I want to give props to the ladies that run the Pregnancy Resource Center. I think that is such a need, especially in our state, that to be able to come alongside, mentor, love on, and help new expecting mothers. Like under perfect circumstances, parenthood is a challenge, and it's difficult, and it's and when you're under circumstances that maybe are less than ideal, it's even more difficult. And so what Jessica and the ladies that volunteer with her do is just absolutely phenomenal. The heart that they have for that ministry is really a blessing to me. Of course, there are so many people that serve here in so many ways, but that's one that I certainly would like to spotlight. So.
A couple of weeks ago, our life skills class with the youth, the girls went down there and kind of helped like do a bunch of the stuff with the clothes. That's kind of a little bit of a segue. What do you remember from your experience in the youth group? Who was the youth pastor whenever you were coming through here? Any advice that you would give to, because me and Nolan are kind of youth group guys. We both teach in the youth. And any advice for either things that you wish you could do differently, or like just general advice for our youth students?
Sure. So Steve Davis was the name of the guy who was the youth pastor most of the time I was in the youth group. He left before my senior year, and at that point in time, after a brief interim by Carrie Herring, believe it or not, Derek Downs was the name of the guy that was the youth pastor my senior year. Derek's now a pastor in Wisconsin, and Steve is a pastor of a church in Augusta, Georgia now. And he was a wonderful youth pastor, very energetic. We talked about this a little bit, Nolan, the hot seat. That was one of the things that's like kind of sticks out in everybody's mind. And Chris might have been to some stuff here where he experienced the hot seat. I'm not saying that you should, and maybe in today's climate, maybe the hot seat's not the best idea, but it was certainly interesting. It was a stool that had a couple of like metal pads on it that was connected to a battery, and you would zap it, and it would be a shocking experience. Of course, you do it enough times, you kind of learn how to cope from it. If you sit perfectly flat, it's not bad. If you sit on the edge of those metal pads, it's like feels like the shock goes straight through you. So you kind of learn to compensate for that. But that was one of the things that's always a highlight. Twice a year we would do like a team competition where the youth group would be divided up into 4 teams, and you bring in your friends from outside this church. Could be from other churches, ideally unchurched kids, because it gives them the opportunity to hear the gospel, of course. And you would have 2 adults for each team. So there are usually 4 teams. So 2 adults would be like the sponsor or coach of the team. One of my earliest memories, I remember, and they weren't the coach of my team, but I remember Dylan and Bonnie. This is mid '90s, being one of the coaches. One thing, if I recall, there was like maybe they had that one week like I feel like Dylan had like an Indiana Jones like pith helmet kind of thing going on or something. And so I don't know if he still got that or not, and maybe I'm just dreaming that, but I feel like I remember that. So that was always a lot of fun. We did in the summers, we would usually do what's called a mission tour, where we would go to a different city, sometimes in state, sometimes out of state. The very first one I went on was like a 2-week gig with the youth from McKinley and the youth from Dorisville, and we went to Williamsburg, Virginia, with like some stops in the DC area just to kind of sightsee and do a little bit of stuff. But our main focus was being in the Williamsburg, Virginia area, helping with Bible schools and backyard Bible clubs, stuff like that.
You say you went for 2 weeks?
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks. In fact, I was gone on my 13th birthday, and I think my mom was a little like upset that she didn't get to see her firstborn on it become a teenager. I did call collect, which is probably something you guys can't relate to. They had payphones back then, and so you would call collect, and so instead of putting quarters in the machine, the people on the receiving end would have to pay for the phone call. So I remember calling collect on my birthday so she could wish me a happy birthday. But yeah, we would do that every summer. And that was always a highlight and a good opportunity to learn service, at an early age.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit more about you. Like, what are some hobbies that you're interested to? What do you like to do for fun outside of finance?
Yeah, so I got a lot of hobbies. I mean, primarily, I enjoy being at my kids' events. With Ava being an adult now, she doesn't have as many of those like we did when she was younger. But with Justin, going to soccer matches or swim meets or his plays and band concerts, stuff like that. With Ava, I really enjoy and miss marching band season, like going to a different parade every weekend, and our marching band is so wonderful. So I miss that, and I'm looking forward to a couple of years when Justin's back in high school again, being able to pick that back up again, because that's so much fun. And we still try to go to one a year, even though I don't have any kids currently in it, just because they're so fun to watch. I really, really love fantasy sports, baseball, football, the time period between when baseball ends or when football ends and baseball starts is like a kind of a somber, serious time for me, because I don't like, what do I do for my competitive outlet? And I really enjoy listening to music, going to concerts, going to live sporting events. One of my goals is to make it to all 30 major league ballparks. I made it 16 so far, so I've got to kind of hit the coasts to get that wrapped up. Everything is kind of within driving distance for sure. I've done so, other than Kansas City. So yeah, that's kind of it for me for hobbies.
Wow. So can you name all 16 that you visited?
Oh gosh, been to Busch, been to both of the White Sox ballparks, Comiskey Park, which I think was torn down in '89, and then whatever Guaranteed Rate Field, whatever it is now, Wrigley, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Detroit a couple times, Cleveland.
In Kansas City?
I've not been to Kansas City. It's the only Central Division ballpark I've not been to. So I've been to Minnesota, Atlanta, San Diego, Houston, Texas Rangers new ballpark.
Any Florida teams?
Surprisingly, no, none of the Florida teams. So we've got a little bit of work left to do, but kind of taking it systematically.
So I found out like an interesting fact about you whenever I was away at college. So I went to Red Hill Church.
Yeah.
When I was away at college, and there was like one weekend towards the end of my senior year, your good friend Stephen Davis taught our life group. And he was like, "Yeah, I had a really good time at this. I don't remember if it was AC/DC.
Could have been.
I don't know. It was some like 80s rock concert." He's like, "Yeah, me and a good friend of mine from high school, Matt Businaro." And I was like, sitting at another table. I was like, "What'd you just say?" But so like you like to go to those concerts? Like what other concerts?
Yeah, so Stephen's my concert buddy, and with him living in Glen Carbon, he's not far from St. Louis, and being my age, I don't like to drive home at night, especially if it's like late at night, because I'm afraid I'll fall asleep behind the wheel. And so we'll go to concerts together, and I'll usually crash at his house afterwards, so I don't crash on the road, right? Gosh, we've seen Van Halen several times. That's his and my favorite band. We've seen Metallica.
It was like a 2-part concert where it was like...
Oh, so it's probably Metallica, because they did like a long weekend at the Dome where they played a Friday night and a Sunday night. They called it no repeat weekend. So
yeah, it was like part A and part B.
Part B, exactly. Completely different set list both nights. So you kind of got the entire Metallica backlog there. So it was a lot of fun. Really loud.
That's awesome.
Draft time?
I think we can draft. That'll be fine.
Oh,
I have a good draft.
I love drafting. I don't love being on the turn, but with 3 people, I mean,
someone's got to be.
Yeah, no one's never on the turn, so it's always got to be.
That's pastoral privilege. That's fine. That's right there.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the sweet spot. Yeah, you got time to think about your answers a little more pressure being on the turn.
There's no doubles ever. So speaking of ballpark, we're going to do ballpark food. I just thought of this 3 seconds ago. So it's a completely fair. I've been getting a little bit of hate about like, Jacob, you pick the question, and then yours is an okay list. Everybody else doesn't have time to think. And I'm like, well, I just thought of this 2 minutes ago. Okay. So we're going to go ballpark food.
Okay.
And I'll leave it up to your guys' discretion, but the other 2 people can veto and say, this is not a ballpark food if it's something that no one likes to pull.
If you can get it at the ballpark, it's a ballpark food.
I agree. No one likes to go off script a lot of times with the category. So
okay.
We'll start with Matt Businaro, our guest. He can go first. Nolan, I get 2. Nolan, Matt, so on until we all get. Let's go with 4 this time. There's a little more variety.
Okay. All right. We'll start with the Cadillac of the cased meat world, the bacon wrapped hot dog at Busch Stadium on the left field concourse. Chef's kiss. I mean, it's bacon wrapped hot dog. I mean, tell me something that's wrong with any of that.
No. What do you get? Any toppings on it, or is it just bacon?
You can get it just about anything you want. I'll usually go with like crispy onions, and if I have a table or something to sit at, I might put baked beans on it. But usually I'm kind of a minimalist for my hot dog toppings. But a bacon wrapped hot dog is just it's wonderful.
That's good. Wow. You got anything?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to come up with 4. Are there 12 ballpark foods? Like,
I think so. You can't think of 12.
I'm taking a strong number 1. It might be a bad opinion. I don't know. It's my favorite. It's going to be a bratwurst.
Oh, bratwurst.
So that's solid.
Onions, preferably grilled onions, and mustard.
I'm going to take 2 pretty good ones right here. Number 1, I'm going with nachos. My personal favorite ballpark food. Loaded or supreme, whatever you want to call it, is definitely better than just the cheese, but I like jalapenos on all of it no matter what. Second pick is going to be popcorn. I had popcorn the other day at Busch Stadium, and it was awesome. I did have to smack a wasp with the popcorn bag, and the bottom of it was like leaking out the bottom of the bag the rest of the time, but it was okay.
Man.
Like nachos in a helmet?
Yeah.
The helmet's just. I mean, putting it on a cardboard home plate's okay, but like in a batting helmet's just.
I like the helmet.
Ramps it up a level.
I'm okay with like a big like tray too. Like I like the souvenir things.
Yeah.
Anything that's like souvenir is definitely better than like the regular. But as long as it's got like a nice wide tray, I'm not spilling all over myself, I'll be okay.
All right. With my second pick, I'm going to lock in Dippin' Dots.
Dippin' Dots.
In a helmet.
In a helmet.
Yeah.
Dippin' Dots in a helmet. Pretty solid.
It's fair.
I like the helmet. We used to go to the minors games all the time, and I'd always get Dippin' Dots. It was so good.
It's hard to beat peanuts in the shell.
Okay.
And you empty that shell out there. Kind of operates as if somebody in your aisle spills their drink or whatever, kind of soaks up the liquid as well. So it's not only tasty, but it's a little bit of a safety thing there. You think it'd be dangerous, but actually I think adds to the safety level as well. So peanuts in the shell. Man, you stumped me on this one.
No, you're good.
I went to a game not too long ago, a couple years ago, where we actually got to sit in the green seats, which is pretty cool. And I noticed when you're sitting in the green seats, they kind of customize a few of the offerings they serve to the team that's in town. So this particular game, they were playing the Brewers, and they had spicy cheese curds.
Oh.
And they were phenomenal. So spicy cheese, or just cheese curds in general. So I feel like if you're in Milwaukee at a ball game, you could probably get cheese curds. Oh, man. Next time around, I got another one, Milwaukee related.
All right.
I'll
try to steal it for you. No.
You're not going to get it.
Pick number 3, I'm going to take the overpriced chicken strip basket.
Chicken strip basket?
The chicken strip basket. I feel like most ballparks have that now. It's a good pick.
Yeah.
I think.
Solid.
I feel like I had it at Busch Stadium whenever we went for my bachelor party. It was the chicken strip basket. Probably cost $25, but it was good.
Might have been more.
You would hope.
Yeah, for sure. All right. First one, I'm going to go with big dill pickle. Emphasis on the big. I like the ones, especially when they're like, this might be like more like Harrisburg baseball field when it's like wrapped in tinfoil and like might get stuck in your fillings. The tinfoil might, you never know. I think the big dill pickle out of like the gigantic jars they have in there, one of my favorites. And then last one's going to be sunflower seeds for me. I like sunflower seeds, especially on a hot day. Ballpark, nothing better.
Yeah, I can't disagree, but I don't know. I feel like I need to veto and say that's not a ballpark food.
Oh, it definitely is.
It's like borderline not food, but that's
Wait,
okay.
the pickle or the sunflower seeds?
The sunflower seeds.
Well, but like, what, 85% of the baseball players are chewing them? They're at the ballpark. It's food. I mean, you're intaking calories. I think it's fine.
You just got astray from
Do
that.
they actually like sell them there though? Like,
Yes.
I've never seen sunflower seeds for sale there.
Go to a
So you're
ball
not
game.
looking hard enough.
Apparently not. For my number 4, I'm gonna take a pretzel. Nobody's taking
Oh,
a
yeah,
pretzel.
man. How did we miss that? That's
Yeah.
great.
It just came to me. I was gonna take cotton candy, but I thought that was a loser. Really,
Yeah,
cotton candy's no good.
I don't like cotton candy. It gets my fingers all sticky. I feel like I'd go to the bathroom afterwards. Not a fan of cotton candy either. That's a good pick, though. Pretzel's a really good pick.
So going with the Milwaukee theme and also going with the cased meat theme. Milwaukee, they've got the sausage races, right? And so there's a 4 different sausages that race every time. I really love Mexican food. I love chorizo, and you can get a chorizo sausage at Milwaukee because that is one of the 4 sausages that's part of the sausage race. In fact, when I was up there for a game, I got a chorizo t-shirt. You can get like a jersey of the players. I wasn't going to get like a Ryan Braun or Christian Yelich jersey, but I did get a chorizo jersey.
That's awesome.
So,
I've never heard the term jersey. That's pretty good. I know what you're talking about, though. Like,
yeah,
t-shirt jersey. That's awesome.
Man, I think you might have been a big winner on that. I'm a big fan of chorizo.
I've never had a chorizo. Chorizo hot dog is what you said?
it was like a
Sausage?
chorizo sausage.
Oh, man.
That's how it
Top-notch.
comes, and then they like get it out of the casing, put it on the grill sometimes. I think.
I would say that's probably right. Could be in patties. I don't know. It's delicious, however it comes.
All right. You got any more questions?
All right, how are we on time?
I think we're pretty good on time.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah, this was a ton of fun.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. This was great.
Yeah, for sure. And we always like just kind of want to end with like a little bit of an encouraging thing. Like we see the way that you're serving as treasurer and as deacon here, and we just appreciate you. And keep up the good work. Really, that's all we need to say.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yep.
Thank you for watching The Flock. Stay tuned next week for a new episode.